back to another episode of Soccer Dad Radio.
SDR.
SDR, this is episode number 4 of SDR. This is Matt.
And Ryan.
And we are joined today by Maegan. Hi, Maegan.
Hello.
Gibby.
Maegan Gibson in the house.
She has quite the
Impressive resume.
It's very impressive. She is currently coaching at the Arsenal South program right now. But she has a lot of player history that she's going to share with us, and then a little bit about the coaching right now. So there's lots to talk about, so let's dive into it.
Did you want to talk about your
No.
your accolades and your accomplishments, or did you want us to go ahead and just say that you were Surf Cup champ 3 times,
Repeat. Yes.
then national champion,
Mm-hmm.
best 11, and for those of you that don't know what best 11 means, Maegan will let us know.
It's for the tournament, it's the top 11 players, so they just pick what would be the ideal team, and so they grab from each team, and normally the champion team, you have like 6 players that they would choose, and then grab from the other teams. But yeah, I was on best 11 for ODP national championships and
What?
national championships, so.
It's like the all-star squad.
Yeah,
Yes.
the all-stars
The
of the
all-stars,
all-stars,
yeah.
yeah. So it was in the same year, I believe, so it was just an epic year for me.
How old were you?
I was 15,
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
And where do they do these best, because I didn't know what best 11 was. Where do they do best 11s? Like, does this only happen at like ODP and?
Yeah, like
big
the
ones?
higher tournaments, they'll do best 11, so I'm guessing just nationals, but yeah.
Did they ever have like a best 11 versus best 11 West East, or
It was for the whole, so it was for the country.
for the entire country?
Mhm.
wow.
So that's why it's,
You fancy.
yeah.
Oh,
And let's see, regional ODP player for 4 years.
That was fun, yeah. That was
Um,
under Scott Juniper, I believe. He's at UCI currently, so he was in that.
Anteaters in the house?
Yeah,
Anteaters?
that's a great mascot. I failed not going there.
National pool player 2 years.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
not fun.
And I think the best, I mean, if we're going to talk about her playing experience, I mean, it has to be the 4 years as a high school varsity player, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even though I never bought a Letterman.
You have the patch.
Yeah, I have the
Yes.
patches. They'll be on a blanket one day. I'm sure.
okay, cool. I've got my letters.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't even
still
buy
have-
that dumb jacket that I
No,
was
because
Who
you're
wears
not
the
gonna. You're
jacket?
never
Wow.
gonna wear it again.
We live in Southern California.
Right.
We live in Temecula.
Right.
I joke about it because my wife has one,
Mhm.
and she's never worn it. But now
Right.
that like my daughter's going to the same high school and stuff, I'm like, you have to bring it out now. You
Right.
have to wear
Yes.
it just to be that mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wearing your Letterman's
Oh,
jacket.
no.
With a bedazzled soccer mom hat.
That
Yeah.
would be so good.
Yes.
With all the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about, the AYSO
Oh,
buttons.
yeah.
Oh no, keep that off there.
No, we were talking about it. Like, who thought it was a good idea to make buttons? Like,
Oh, you
who-
mean with your kid's face on
Yeah,
it?
with a face on it.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mom has it in her car.
Yeah.
And we're like,
But
take them
no
down.
one's worn them. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 dads back in the day. Like, I haven't seen
There's-
it recently.
There's a recent parent,
Okay.
no names mentioned, but I give him props for like repping his kids the way
Yeah.
that he does. He has their buttons on his hat,
I laugh
and
about
it's actually kind of cool because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of funny.
I think-
on the flip side.
I laugh about it, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a fan of your kid, and why not wear them? Like,
Yes.
I think we should start like those Disneyland lanyards with like the buttons on them.
Oh, for sure.
Go
That's
super dad,
genius.
like
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Birkenstocks with cargo shorts.
Mhm.
All right, back
And
on
then,
track.
and then after what? After your 4 years of high school varsity player and being player of the year as junior, D1 college offer,
Mhm.
partial or full ride.
Full ride.
And something that we learned before we started the show was, I'm like, wow, full ride, huh? And what did Maegan say?
I had many of them. I had a lot of offers. I mean, if
What's-
one college is going to offer you a full ride, that's at a Division I level, you have to assume all the D2s wanted me, all the D3s. It's just, right? Naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
Okay.
Settled with LMU though.
It wasn't a settle. If anyone actually goes to the campus, because I went on a bunch of tours, and I had never heard of LMU.
Yep.
And I went there, and like God whispered, like, "This is your school." So I was like, "Okay." It was beautiful. It's a gorgeous school.
Did you get goosebumps when he whispered?
Yes.
I'm envious because LMU has one of the best one of the best schools for film and television.
Yeah, that's why I went.
And I always had that like on my radar, that or USC, obviously we had both, but you know, that wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, well, like Michael Jackson's son, Prince Jackson, was in one of my classes, so it was like, it's an actor's school.
Yeah.
You see like James Franco walking across the yard, and you're like, this is so cool.
Very big school for film and television.
Yeah.
So. Thanks for joining us today. So let's get a little bit about the background.
Yeah, when did you start? Were you born with a ball at your feet?
Yeah, it was one of those. I could hit like a baseball at like age 2. Like I just was super athletic at a very young age, and I started soccer at 4. I know everyone says 5, but I could do it at 4. You know, and
overachiever.
Just
yeah.
one up in everybody.
Yeah.
Hey Andy, if you're listening, I think that's a true hashtag 100 to 0.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, at age 4, I was in Orange County. So I think I played for the JUSA leagues.
JUSA.
Yeah.
Because that was either AYSO or JUSA.
Right. So I'm sure I was in one of those. Whatever. Then I moved to Temecula when I was 6 and started playing club. Then up a year for Southwest.
Up a year, so started at 6,
Mm-hmm.
right into playing up a year.
Mm-hmm. And I was under, and then I was a goalie actually. So I started off as a goalie in club. So I got all the balls down low, but anything over, that was a goal because I was so tiny. I was very tiny. And so that's when I met Heidi. The next year, she stole me from the olders, took me to the true age group, and was like, I'm going to teach you every skill I know. And that's how I became a better soccer player.
That's Heidi Solis, right?
Yep.
At Arsenal. So if you guys listen to the podcast, that's episode 2 going back. We talked with Heidi. There's a lot about skill work in there, which Maegan just reinforced. That's a good episode to listen to kind of get some more background on Heidi.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a single sport player? You said you swung a baseball bat, but
yeah, I did
it was all
baseball for a
soccer.
little bit, but like my true love was soccer from a very early age. But I mean, I could play everything else too.
Wow. Wow. Whoa. I've had many full offers. I could play any sport, really.
I'm here to drop the truth.
We're all pretty excited about
Right.
Maegan. She's a great person with a good personality, so we're just gonna have a little fun throughout this interview with her.
So you started club at 6,
Mhm.
played up a year.
Mhm.
Was it, you were goalie, was the transition from those JUSA days,
Mhm.
was it a struggle for you? Or since you're such a gifted athlete, I mean, did you just kill it right when you walked in?
No, so I would have asthma attacks. I'd struggled with asthma pretty bad for exercise induced. But I would struggle with having asthma attacks every game because I was that kid during the bubble B years that I had the ball. And so when I went to club, I could actually take a breath and, you know, understand the other kids around me were able to do things.
Did you have a problem sharing? It sounds like you might be
I was
one
a
of
ball
those.
hog in the beginning for sure, but I learned very quickly, and throughout my soccer career, I was too selfless.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I know.
Surprisingly.
You have to be, and that's a hard thing for kids to grasp.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everyone wants goals. Parents are like, you know,
Parents
get
praise
the
goals.
board. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get the board. She gets
Yes.
$5 every goal, or I've heard
Right.
20 and crazy things. But
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually, going back to that, I grabbed my daughter, I think it was $50 a goal, only because she was a defender. And I'm like, oh, she's
yeah,
not
it's
going to
never
score.
happened.
Yeah.
There was one tournament, and I think it was 3 goals. And I'm like, oh, okay.
See that I don't
Yes.
have a problem with that.
Right.
The bribing, like I bribe both girls
Mhm.
with $100 for a header, off a
Okay.
corner kick,
Ooh.
because they're both terrified of heading the ball.
Mhm.
I have a history of concussions, as you do too.
Right.
So they kind of saw that, and I don't know if that was kind of hesitant and stuff, but it happened. I think you were there too. One of the other dads caught a video
Yes.
of Mackenzie
Yep,
hitting it.
I was there.
None of us, I wasn't there, the wife turned around, didn't see it.
Oh, of course.
So of course we didn't believe it, and then the video came over, and then it popped up
The money.
So,
Wait, she scored it?
yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so-
impressive.
Yeah, so
So transitioning from goalkeeper, where did you end up playing?
So funny story. Heidi had me as a forward because I was naturally goal. But then she demoted me to center
And
mid.
there's air quotes right there with that
Yes.
promotion.
So I thought that she thought less of me by putting me in center mid, because what did I know at that time? And I bawled my eyes out and was like, what? Like, you're taking away my forward position? I'm a forward, you know? And then she's like, no, Maegan, like, you have vision. I want you to create. And so she was the one that turned me into the centerman that I became, but I was terrified of it at first.
Then you became, so you stayed at center mid?
I stayed attacking centerman for the rest of it.
And how much did you play the rest of the field? Did you ever have defense exposure? Did you ever float
No,
around?
I would want to play in the back on the wings, but no one ever really gave me that shot. They're just like, she's a center mid. So,
Okay.
yeah, I pretty much stayed.
When you played in college, center mid? Yep.
Yeah, and then they would put me up, they wanted me as a wing, like left wing, so I could cut in and shoot with my right. So they were training me there, but I didn't get to play that much because of my injuries. So,
Brings us to that next question. Injuries.
bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam, bam. I mean, you've had how many concussions?
I don't remember. That just explains. That's always right.
That's one of the effects from concussions.
Yeah.
Do you remember at what
record?
age? You remember at what age you had your first?
Yeah, so my first, I was in Idaho for nationals with, it was Randy Brown. He took over during that time for Clay, but he was coaching up at Idaho, whatever. We were playing, who was it? Some important team, and I went up for a header and I flicked it with my temple, the side, and lights went out.
Oh.
It was just a freak accident where I just went up, headed it, went back down, crawled my way off the field because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So then they took me immediately to the ER, and I was like half blind, like I just couldn't see for like 2 weeks. So it was
2 weeks.
freaky. Yeah, it was freak.
That's
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, and my parents, it was the first tournament, of course, that my parents didn't go. And there was a lot of drama going on with my team
Right.
at the time. And so,
How scary for a parent.
yeah, so they got the phone call that, you know, this had happened. And I'm like, yo, I cannot see. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Yo.
And they're just like, what is going on with this kid? So yeah, but basically when I came off that plane and my parents were at the airport, my sister was bawling her eyes out. They thought I turned into a different person because my personality changed
Yep.
because it was so bad. And so yeah, that was my first really big scare with it all, and didn't get better after that. But yeah, so I was about 12.
Jeez, that's so early.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a handful.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize enough was enough? That
In
you couldn't
college.
take the risk?
So in college, I got hit by a teammate in practice, and then I had a seizure. Yeah. So after that, it was kind of like my body. I would have probably said, let's go, but my body, it was obvious my body couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was like the signal of, okay, how many times are we going to throw away the doctor's notes that are saying you need to stop?
Right. When you're damaging the piece of equipment that runs your body, basically.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to guess, how many have you had over the years? Concussions?
7.
7?
7.
Okay.
Severe one.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I mean, after the first,
After
stupid things can
Mhm.
lead to it
That's
being
pain.
major.
And people don't realize that. I mean, I've had 4, I think. So all of mine come from snowboarding, and I had 1 motorcycle wrecking. But it's like once you have the first one, it kind of throws everything off. Like
Right.
nothing, as far as balance and equilibrium and light exposure, and like even in here, like I squint with these lights on, and I always wear sunglasses because it still affects. And they don't understand that once you have that first one, you know, the second one can come kind of easy just because you're not as aware as you used to be, I guess. But yeah, it's just interesting hearing like when it was time to hang up. Because I remember like when it was time, you know, my wife said, that's it, no more snowboarding. You know, you wear a helmet, you can't jump, you have to take it easy. That's it. It's tough. It's
Sticking
tough.
the buddy slope.
It's
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to give up.
Oh, it was,
when it's been your passion.
yeah, and especially it was my first year at LMU.
Right.
So, you know, I was going in thinking, you know, I'm going to get some national titles for this team, you know, like you have this plan.
Yeah.
And then it's like first year you're hanging up the jersey, walking away. It's awful.
So what happened to like the scholarship at that point?
Ugh, we don't even want to talk about it.
But let's
But
talk about
do
it.
it, yeah.
Yes.
That's
You know
something I'm
what?
sure
So
someone's gonna
this
wonder.
is huge. So when it came to the scholarship, my coaches thought I could still play.
Really?
And they watched me have seizures. And the thing is, the seizures didn't stop. I would have them at school, like I had them in the classroom. I was nonstop seizing because my body was so jacked up. And my coaches were like, the doctors, have taken the MRIs. There's no sign of brain damage. You're fine. You can play. And they took away my scholarship because they thought, you know what, if you don't want to play, that's that. But it,
Well, you say you could play, but you're saying no,
No.
so, sorry.
right.
Wow,
So they took it as like I was giving up,
wow.
and that was not my character at all.
No, clearly from the
Clearly,
resume
yes.
and the track record, like, this is not a girl that's gonna give up.
Right, and they were just like, no. And so it could have gotten really sloppy. I could have sued the school. It could have been this really, it was epic. And during that time, there was a lot of NCAA fishy things about your head injuries.
Right.
So there was a lot going on at that time, and people were like, you need to be, a voice. You need to attack this. They can't just kick you off. But I thought that the heartache of going through that whole process of suing, and it was just.
Exactly.
It was like, what is that going to do
All
for
the
me?
what at the end, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're talking about a settlement. Like, oh, they'll just settle because they don't want this going out. I don't care for the money right now. I just want myself healthy and
Yeah.
happy.
It doesn't
and
get you
so,
back on the
Mhm.
field, it doesn't get you.
right. And so I chose to go back home and start coaching.
Wow. Now, the doctor, was it like the school doctor? I mean, they weren't
So,
buying it, or was it your
No,
doctor?
no. They had me at, it was called like Curlin and Job. It's like this really high-end whatever next to LMU. And they did all the testing. And they
Okay.
were saying, you're done.
Right.
They said I was done. I had doctor's notes already years before saying I was done. So for
Right.
them to not take that and
And the coach is not kind of take that to heart.
yeah, and so it was mind-boggling, pretty heartless.
That's great.
But, like,
Wow.
uh-huh. And I think the hardest part of it was you spend all these years giving your life to a
Dedicated, yeah.
sport, and then it kind of like said middle finger at the end.
Spits you out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, this journey is still going. That's why I'm
Right,
coaching,
right,
yeah.
so that it didn't end on that sour note. I'm still going with the sport, so it's gonna end well. But that middle part really, yeah, that was a fun transition.
But I think it makes for a great story. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's great to share, I mean, that's what I try to share my experiences with kids and wearing helmets, and as dorky, like in air quotes, as my kids look on the ski slope with a helmet, you're wearing a friggin' helmet. Like, I've learned, and I've destroyed my head, and I've got enough memory issues where I have to write down stuff, and I'm sure you can relate, that it's not worth it, so if I can share a story or share your story to anyone I can, then by all means, I want it out there, because it's not something to mess with. And because you have some coach that wants to step aside and, brush it under the carpet, that's not good, it's someone's, I don't know, that bugs me
Right.
hearing it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's sad, but it happens, especially, I mean, in the football world.
Oh,
Hello.
I could only imagine
Yeah.
what
You
their
know,
whole protocol.
Every single football player I've talked to is like, yeah, I remember the time I was throwing up and I went back in. Yeah, that's all their stories consist of, and it's like, that's amazing.
Mhm.
It's really sad.
Definitely.
So what's your opinion on headgear?
So what was awesome, I had to start wearing it after when I was 12, that injury. And I would wear it off and on because I'm like, oh, I'm good, because no one wants to be the girl in the headgear.
Right.
But when I went to high school, what was awesome was I started with Heidi, correct? Like, she was my first club coach that taught me everything. She then became my high school coach, and she made everyone wear headgear. When I was a junior, that was the year we actually won. Chaparral hadn't won in years.
Right.
And here we are, all in headgear. We look very scary. Like, nobody
Right.
can pick out the, girl with the head injuries. Everyone was wearing it.
Mhm.
That's cool.
So we all battled, and we actually had the best year that Chaparral had in years. So
That's Heidi and her psychology coming in.
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yes.
she knew I needed it, and
Right.
she was like, "All right, we're gonna buy everyone one." So we did a fundraiser for it, and she made it. You had to,
Mhm.
and it was awesome. You know, we all went up for those headers. We all went up for those dirty tackles.
So I know there's mixed things out there, whether or not they actually help,
Right.
you know, but for you as a player, it was about the confidence.
It is about the mental
aspect. Right.
Right, and I've read a lot of articles, you know, dismissing if they work or not, you know,
Right.
what's the purpose of them, they're not gonna stop. Well, yeah, it's not gonna stop a concussion, like a helmet's not
For sure.
gonna stop, you crash on a motorcycle, helmet's not gonna save your life, but it's gonna reduce a lot of things that are gonna go wrong.
It's just that shock about
Yeah, and like I tell my girls, like, you're the only two that are out there with it on, I don't care. Like,
Right.
you're wearing it, period, because regardless if you're coming down for a jump ball and you come down and you smack your head on the ground, there's something there.
Mhm.
There's a little bit more than there would be without just your head versus
Right.
the ground. You know, I mean, it's just like slamming your head on this desk, or if you put a pillow there and then you slam your head. It's a little less of an impact.
Right.
It may not stop it, it may not cure everything, but you know what, it's something.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a proponent of it. I love them. I wish more kids would use it, you know, especially the active ones that
Right.
are jumping and all over the place, but.
It's just hard because I think so many, like you said, you know, being the only girl that was wearing it, it just, I don't think, with teenage girls especially, you know, a lot of it is about fitting in,
Right.
not standing out.
You know, rolling up the shorts,
Yes.
high ponytail, you want to look good, and
Right.
here you are with the headgear in high school.
What is it with rolling shorts? I mean,
You
like,
know
being
what?
a dad of two girls, like, I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it on the fields. And I'm like, where is the parent? Like,
Yeah.
can we get the girls some shorts to fit? Like,
Funny story, there was a dad walking his daughter. The dad obviously didn't take her to training, but he was there to pick her up. And he sees how high her shorts are rolled up, and he was livid. Some of the things that he was saying, I'm not going to repeat here, but I was actually laughing to myself because he was so embarrassed that his daughter had her shorts that short that they were rolled so
That's
They
when you
just
pull
not-
out the video.
Are they just not comfortable?
Right.
Like, are they not like a good fit?
Okay,
Do
come,
they not?
let's be real.
No, but I mean, really, I mean, there's the unisex ones where you know they're boy shorts.
Oh yeah, those are just.
But then you have
lame for
like
girls.
Nike's making the attempt to make
Okay,
the girls
it had to
dress
start
and-
with some popular girl in high school that was like, you know what, girls?
Roll them up and they just-
We're gonna roll these up, you know, like stupid volleyball is taking away all of our, all of our support.
All of our energy,
yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely a high school thing or like a 8th grade thing, but,
Okay.
yeah, some popular girl started it.
Thanks, popular. girl.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I guess
Thanks.
people followed, so.
Outside of concussions, did you have to deal with many injuries?
Yeah, I mean, again, you guys can't see me, but I'm like 5'2", never really grew, so I was what they called elbow height. So I got smacked all the time. I had a girl lose her tooth in my arm. We're going up for a header.
Wait a second.
No, listen, this is a good one. So I was going up for a header. She was going up. She like bit down or something, and she lost her tooth in my arm. And
So-
I didn't know whose blood was whose, and I just like picked it
Oh.
out and had to give it to her. Like I still have
Like,
a
oh,
scar.
you want this?
Yeah.
Hey, Bucky Beaver.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
but like I felt bad for the girl because I'm like, I'm okay. Like you're the one without a
Without a
tooth.
Was it like a front tooth?
Yeah, it was a
Oh
front
my
tooth.
God.
And I'm like,
That is epic.
it was awesome. If you're that parent, you think a college coach is gonna take your kid, you're out of your mind. I've seen USC turn back like the best player I'd known because her parents were so awful.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
it
That
has,
is-
you know, you can be so talented and your parents are going to ruin it for you. And I think people are oblivious to how much that a name can get traveled around a city, can get traveled around a state.
Mhm.
Makes you think of the Ball family with the Lakers.
Oh, right.
You know?
Yes.
LeVar and, yeah,
Mhm.
that's an overly involved parent right there.
It's-
Just a little bit.
Hey, but I admire him. He's got a passion, so.
Right.
All right, well, that's good to hear again. And so as far as high school goes,
Yeah,
what's your opinion on high school? Should girls play?
I'm a high school coach.
Okay,
So I'm a junior varsity I'm with Heidi at Chaparral.
okay.
So I would have to say yes, play, because I'm coaching it, obviously, I'm for it, but I think, I don't know, it's time to let your hair down. It's the time when you get a break from club and you get to represent your school. How awesome is that? And you
Right.
get to be known as that soccer player, you know, you get to show people why you miss parties on the weekends, like this is why. And so I think think for girls, yes, for guys, it's different. For sure.
There's a little bit of a different roadmap there on.
Yeah, because if you're gonna do academy and you can't do club, I would say academy all the way.
Right.
Because if you're serious.
Right.
But if you want to have a good time, which everyone deserves to, go play some high school soccer.
And I think the answer to that question too, I mean, you had a great high school coach.
Right. For 2 years now.
Where you're coaching now, it's a great experience for girls because of the coaches there,
Mhm.
you and Heidi. So I think some other areas it might not be the case.
Right.
You know, you could have that English teacher
Mhm.
that just volunteered to be the coach that doesn't
Right.
know anything about the game, and then that might not be the best atmosphere
Right.
for a player.
Right, because then you're picking up bad habits from the guy who knows nothing.
Right.
Right.
And you're getting injured.
Yes.
But
You don't want.
I guess, as you're saying, it depends on who's coaching there. I think it's getting better
I
as far
think
as
it
like
is.
the English teacher thing. I think that's more middle
Right.
school soccer.
Mhm.
More, yeah, it's more professional
Right.
now.
Yeah, but if you're dealing with someone that doesn't even have a license, then yeah, don't do it. But again, it still would be fun. Like I was underneath this coach my first 2 years, and great guy. But it's not like he was matured with the soccer. Like he still is old school,
Mhm.
and it was still a fun experience because you got to play with older girls than you. You know, I got that college experience because I was playing with seniors. I was playing with
Right,
juniors
right.
on varsity. So it's like the experience is going to give you what it needs to give you, I think.
I've recently seen a lot of girls get discouraged from playing soccer, playing high school soccer, playing, continuing with club, because there's kind of a discrimination going on. If they play for Club A, we're not gonna, put you on the varsity team. You have to play for Club B. Do you guys see that with your school? Like, is that how your teams are? Are you gonna
Not
mix?
ours, because Heidi and me have morals, but there's a lot of coaches who, shame on you for doing that. It's
So it
sad.
does happen.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks, because I had no idea it happened, and I get, there's times where, I don't think people look at the big picture, like they may be gone, for weeks on end during a big part, and your kid may miss practice and stuff, and then they're not playing, and you may hate that coach, or, but when I heard of that, like we're in Corona,
Mhm.
so my girls go to Sanya, are gonna go to
That's
Santiago
great
and
school.
play there, but I'm just thinking like, thank God they don't, like, come down here, because I don't know how I feel about that. I'd be marching right into the director's office or the athletic director, like,
Mhm.
I mean, it's a form of discrimination, saying, that we're not gonna take your kid if they play for such and such.
Right.
Well, it just, I don't know. I couldn't believe it was happening. But then again, we're in Temecula. You can believe it's happening.
Pretty small community.
Yeah,
Um,
and the thing is, like, again, that's against the rules, but yet no one's doing anything about it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
weird.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird. But it does happen, and it's really sad
It
that
sucks, 'cause
as a
there's-
parent, you would let that happen
Right.
and go, okay, we'll switch clubs.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that a parent knows that's wrong, obviously the kid is going like, that's pretty crappy. They're still doing it though,
Yeah.
because that can be stopped very easily by the kids going, no, we're
Right.
not gonna
Yeah.
play high school, it's not worth it. We love our club, and it's amazing they're choosing.
Well, and it's not like, it's not like, hey, like, I chose this club because I hate that club, or like, I'm comfortable here with this coach. Like,
Right.
this is why I like this club. This is why I'm
Mhm.
here. Like, don't get mad at me for it. Like, that's
Yeah.
why I
Exactly.
want to have the same. It's no different than, like a company not hiring somebody,
Yeah.
because of race, sex, or religion, or any of that
Mhm.
stuff. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling to me, honestly,
Mhm.
that people's egos or morals would stoop that low.
For
when I
high
got-
school
Yes.
soccer.
For
Right.
high school soccer, yeah. And when I found out about it, like, I had a super bad taste in my mouth, and
Yeah.
it's bugged me since.
Since learning about it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's not cool. These are young girls that already have enough problems,
Mhm.
emotionally and socially, and you're supposed to be mentors and guides and helping these girls through, and now you're gonna throw one more roadblock in their way?
Yeah.
Come on.
I think, like, when I go into high school soccer, it's exciting for me because it's a break from the little ones, because I
Right.
coach the little ones, so I'm now with, the teenagers, and it's really fun and yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, I'm excited to get new people. Like, I wouldn't want to see them year round. So, like, the fact that these people are like, stay with me for years, it's like, that's crazy. I want to break, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they're from all these different clubs because they bring so much different perspectives and different coaching. And I think that's the lovely part of high school is that it's mixed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fun if it was a club jumping to high school together.
Mhm.
You know, it should be,
Because then it's the same team.
yeah,
It's still
so,
the exact same team playing. Like,
Right.
what's the fun in that? Like, and you're supposed to be broadening your skills and
Right.
your playing experience, so.
exactly. So I think it totally takes away from the whole purpose.
That's
Um,
crazy.
What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions on the college process, like getting recruited for college?
That it's hard. I think it's very easy to just write an email, call up the coach, things like that. I think people aren't proactive enough.
They just want to sit back and have,
Right. I
to be
think,
approached.
especially on the guy side, I
Okay.
think that, you know, there's a lot of guys that are just like, oh, I'm great, they're gonna come to me, and it never happens. But for girls that are very active in it, you're gonna get a scholarship somewhere. There are billions of schools that want to give you their money. And for you to have such high expectations when maybe you're a tier 2 player, you know, like, set a goal that's realistic. I think it's all about being realistic, and you can find the perfect school for you. But too many kids have a mindset that they're gonna go to USC,
Yep.
and it's like, let's be realistic here.
I need to put in the work that will get me to a college
Right.
and get me the college degree that I want.
Mhm.
Whether that be I play tier 2 right now, or I'm even on tier 3,
Yes.
and I've got to make some sacrifices and then work my way back over here, and whatever it's going to take to develop yourself as the player, like that's what needs to happen.
And I think
Sure.
also too, coaches writing those emails, you know, people like calling in for you and things like that, that goes a long way to have someone vouch for you.
So it
And
kind
I
of goes
think-
back to the network that we talked about
Yep.
in a previous episode. It's having a coach that has those channels.
Right, and I think that too many people focus on coaches that don't have those channels, and at the end of the day, you're sitting there going, what happened? We're on this awesome club, I'm going nowhere.
Right.
Because that coach didn't do their full job. I think that coaches with the older teams should have that background. If you're gonna coach older teams, you should be able to reach out to these colleges. That's your purpose. People are going into club for college, let's be real here.
So when does a player focus on college? Like when does it become like the real focus in
Really,
game?
it depends on your level, because for me, I was recruited in 8th grade.
Okay.
You know, I did a verbal on the phone my freshman year. So like girls are getting scouted so
So
early.
verbal your freshman year.
Mhm.
Can you say where that was?
What do you mean?
For what?
LMU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was, and then of course I get contacted by my dream school like a week later. I'm like, ah, it was Oregon.
Mm.
Yeah, all that free Nike gear out the window.
Go Ducks.
Yes.
Yeah, quack quack. Yeah, so that really sucked. But yeah, I just think when it comes to your level, that bases everything.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What are some words of advice for the teenage player listening right now?
Balance. I think, you know, it's easy to get caught up in your sport and make it your whole world, but you are a lot more than just your sport. You need to have balance in your life in order to appreciate it. I think even if you're trying to shoot for that highest level, you still gotta have a good head on your shoulders, and that means you need to be good in school, you need to have other passion, you need to have friends, because after this game is done, which it happens, you can't always play, which I'm at right now, you're gonna have what you call real life, and you need to be good in it. So I think balance is huge, and that I wish I would have balanced more when I was playing.
Do you feel that you focus too much on the sport and not in other areas?
Yeah, well, I think,
But it's hard for you to, because you had such a passion for the game. I think when a player is actually very passionate about it, I mean, balance, that's kind of subjective.
Yeah.
You know, that defining balance. Because someone that's really passionate about the game, I mean, that's what they want to do.
right.
And I think, I've seen it with my kids, they associate more with their team players outside of the sport than they do like friends at school. Just because I think you become this family,
Yeah.
more than just a friend.
Yeah.
So it's,
Well, there's a different level of trust too.
right,
I think your teammate gives you a different, you're in a different trust circle when you're with that team. Because you guys are constantly depending when you're at full, exerting full energy and full force and going in a battle. It's similar to that, like any military, I could imagine.
Right.
When you have your brother fighting behind you. And, I mean, I know soccer and military aren't the same, but I'm saying just like the general like scope of it. There's a different relationship there with your teammates.
Yes.
And a different, like you said, family-like level.
Yeah.
What are some words of advice for the parent listening?
It's always nice to take a step back, and I think that's why you're able to grow as a parent, is you have those days where you start watching others and you realize like your actions may have not always been right, or I don't know, but I think for parents to trust in your coach, trust in the process. A lot of what Heidi was saying was huge about development. Let patience, that's another huge key word. So I don't know what would be my direct, but chill out.
Chill
It's
out.
gonna be
Chill.
okay.
It's a good one.
Just
Things
chill.
will work for themselves out.
Yeah, it's not
For
the end
sure.
of the world.
As long as you're a good person and you're doing things the right way and you surround yourself with people that are likewise, it's all gonna
Yes.
work out. So jumping back to you coaching, how was that like transition from player to coach?
So I think it's made me think that players should take coaching courses,
Players?
because the things I've learned within, just taking a step back and not playing and just being a student of the game, I want to jump back in so bad because of all the knowledge I know.
Now you know some new stuff.
It's
yeah.
like there should be courses on the game that players take. I really believe in that, and I think when it comes to my coaching, I wish I could jump back in really bad because I know so much more.
So as far as licensing for coaching, the licenses that you guys get, you can take that course at 16, right?
Right.
Right. So you would recommend
Oh, yeah.
if they could fit it in their schedule between school
Totally.
and club.
Yep, because
sign
it's
up
only a
for-
weekend course. Like, it's not gonna take your whole life away and do it. It might be
Mhm.
a couple $100, but hey, maybe grandma will help you out.
But
on
hey, you're
that.
playing club soccer, so a couple
Yeah.
$100.
What is that?
What is
No,
that?
I just think, just thinking as a coach, as a player, that spins everything differently for you. Yeah.
So did you jump on coaching to stay involved with the game, or did you have it in the back of your head one day you wanted to coach?
I always wanted to coach.
Yeah.
Ever since I met Heidi, it was like dream, because she was out there with her. She had Mike. It was Kaylee or Micah at the time. I think her oldest, Kaylee, was in her belly, and here she is waddling around. I'm like, that is who I'm gonna be. Like, I just thought it was so epic that this mom was out there and just killing it and teaching me all these skills with her
That's
belly,
awesome.
and I'm like, that's what I wish to be, like kids in soccer. And so the second I got hurt, again, I've been preparing my whole life to coach. I mean, I've been in the sport for so long, so it was just natural that it's like, okay, here's the test, let's coach. So
Where do you see the coaching going? Do you like the littles? Do you want to stay with littles?
I do both. So I'm in high school for that aspect. I do the littles for the development. But I really want to be a director and have my own club for sure. I think just to be able to be bouncing around from this game to this age to all that, I think would be beautiful. To ride in my little golf court, like the little cart, I think that's so cool. And to be connected to all these families, you have such an impact as a coach. And
Yeah.
I think, directors will step up, and I mean, you get to boss some people around, so there's that. But yeah, I definitely would want to have my own club. And
Not here in the valley though, there's too many already.
so that leads me back to this valley has too many clubs. It is watered down. It's crazy. I've looked back at like my old Hawks, team. We all went to D1 schools.
Oh,
If we would have stayed underneath Heidi, if we would have stayed underneath the developer, we would have been the top team in the country. Instead, we all chased and went to San Diego, we went to Upland, we went to, you know, all
Right.
these different clubs when the talent was in Temecula, man.
Mm.
And I wish that people could gain that knowledge. Like, if you hear me now, stay in Temecula, that's where the talent's at, it really is.
But find where you're good to go. Like,
Mhm.
find the coach that's right for you.
Right.
It's not necessarily the club, it's not the titles, it's whatever coach is gonna develop you. So like, you know, everyone praises Heidi or whatnot, you know, there's different levels to coaches too. Like we come from Corona, right? All we
Mhm.
have is legends. There's Corinthians and BYSC, we've been there, done that, but obviously we needed to step it up, right? And my daughter found Scott Hollis, right?
Mm.
So I mean, Scott's not the top tier coach, you know, that's taking national championships, but I owe everything to that man because he found this little passion and fire in Mackenzie, my oldest, to love soccer and want to do this.
Mhm.
So whatever it was at that step, she needed that.
Mhm.
Now it's on to the next coach to
Right.
develop and mentor.
Right.
Then it's on, maybe it's like, cool, we've outgrown that basket now we go to the next one.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's not necessarily like you gotta buy in and stay where you're at. You need to find where your kid is gonna develop the best. And that comes back to understanding the coach. Get on the coach's side, get in their head, what are they trying to do to your kid? Like, and then communicate what you see, and then you kinda come to a crossroad and, hey, this is our game plan. Go forward with this.
Yeah, I think that's why coaching meetings are really huge, to sit down and talk to the parents, because I know a lot of coaches that run away from the parents.
Yeah.
And that never really goes well because, you know, parents are very involved nowadays. And so you guys need to be on the same page. And so I think communication before, you know, it gets bad. You know, so many people wait and they don't tell the coach, you know, their thoughts and problems, and they have this all, you know, manifesting inside themselves,
Yeah.
and then they get mad and leave, and it's like, you never address those problems to me, you know? So
Exactly.
how am I supposed to fix them? How are we supposed to be on the same page with your kid?
And you're not gonna know, as a coach, you're not gonna know what's going on at home.
Right.
Like, you don't know, you know, like, and just take us for example, like, you don't know that Mackenzie's uncle is, you know, a 36-year-old paralyzed guy in a wheelchair that she has to go home after school and help take care of, and then balance school, and then balance, like you don't know that kind of stuff. You just
Mhm.
see him as a kid on the field coming, and you're collecting your paycheck, you know, and teaching them soccer.
Yep.
But when a coach goes that extra level and learns the family, learns the function of what goes on at home and behind the scenes, then you know that player, and you know how to like game plan and kind of direct your attention to that player.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, they're growing, they're buying into everything you say,
Right.
and it forms what needs to be formed.
Mhm.
I think building that rapport as a coach, build that rapport with a player
Mhm.
over time, and then to where the player trusts the coach, and then the coach knows how to maybe address that player,
Mhm.
call out that player,
Right.
because each kid's a little bit different.
Every kid's
Yes.
super different.
Right, exactly. So I think building that rapport is huge, getting to know not only the player, but the
Mhm.
family if they can.
Totally.
And it's such a crucial stage.
It is, and I think a lot of people, Maegan said it, you know, coaches shy away from coaches or, you know, the parent meetings,
Mhm.
but it is huge because communication is key,
Right.
right?
Yeah, just like in anything else, yeah, if you're not
Right.
communicating, then things aren't gonna, you know, you're not gonna get the whole picture, you know?
Exactly.
I wish we had more parent-coach meetings actually, just to kind of like, hey, this is the game plan, this is what's going on, or even one-on-one. If it's for 5 minutes, like, this is what I'm seeing
Right.
your kid doing, maybe you could reinforce it, maybe you could help. Maybe if they pick up the ball at home, like, you could tell them, hey, juggle a little bit more,
Mhm.
or work on this aspect a little bit more. It just comes down to the parent being on the coach's side,
It
that's
does.
for sure.
Right.
However, communication is key, but let's say you have the weekend game and Johnny or Sally didn't get the playtime that you thought, or something happened and you're furious, take at least 24 hours
Yeah.
until you contact the
That's
coach.
the-
At
that's
least,
the
that's the
biggest.
minimum.
With any-
And then type the text, save it as a draft or an
Mhm.
email, read it 24 hours later and see if you still feel the same way.
Yeah.
Don't write it down.
Yes.
Write it down is better, because if you
Right.
type and you accidentally hit send, reply all, like, you don't want that
Sounds like
going.
someone's done it before.
No, but just, it goes with anything,
Yeah.
with work,
Right.
with anything, with your boss or anything. 48 hours, so you just let it cool off,
Yeah.
and then you have a totally different point of view
Mhm.
on that situation. Like, it's totally different than what it was in the heat of the moment.
You
We
know,
should be
that's-
counselors. Let's be counselors.
I could do that.
Yeah.
All around the mix.
You know
Yes.
what's funny is when parents take that 24 hours and they still send that text. And it's still crazy.
And so,
And you're like, you took the time. I applaud you for that. But how are you still in that mindset? That's
Especially
awesome.
nowadays too, with you gotta be careful what you send digitally.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook,
Yes.
Twitter, like any, I mean, this
Or
stuff's
Yelp.
set,
I-
this stuff's set in stone and chasing us for the rest of our lives.
I've been unfriended on Facebook because I didn't feel the same way as some parents about a coach.
That's amazing.
It happens.
Whatever.
Sorry, I mean,
I got my real life friends. Yes.
Yes.
I have lots of Facebook friends, but I have my true core.
Right. That's
Right.
all you need.
Yes.
I also think that there are too many clubs, and that if we all were to figure out a way to come together to make at least 2 versus the 5,
We actually have 8 here in
I don't want to think about it. It's just the talent gets watered down, and
I hate to say it, but in certain areas where it's very saturated, it's almost like club is the new rec.
yeah,
Like everyone just plays.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think before it used to be the more advanced, the better players were your club players.
but now you're trying to fill in numbers. Like,
Yes.
I know I'm short on both my teams, and I go out to the AYSO games and try to pick up some kids.
And that's
you
a
know.
great area to recruit.
Right, because you're like, wow, they're the same level.
Right.
Like, it depends. Like, for me, I had my girls for a year, they're at a different level. But
Mhm.
the girls I just picked up, they're the same.
Right.
And it's like, it's amazing what a year in club will do, depending on the coach. But, I mean, I'm going to AYSO to pick up my kids
Yes.
at the young age.
So this is America,
Mhm.
we're driven by money. So
Yep.
anyone can start a club and make some money.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean it's going to be a good one.
True.
That's true.
There's a lot of bad ones out there.
A lot of that one,
Well, lots of them.
too.
No names. At least not yet.
But-
We're too early in this process.
I know. You guys picked the wrong person to be on this early, because I'm ready. I got the names.
So, so what we need to do is we need to revisit Maegan in about 6 months.
Yes.
Once we build up the episodes and we kind of mature into this as well.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then start, I don't know, launching the fire
Because
or?
I got a fire.
Once
That will be the paid subscription,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the paid
that'll be
version.
it. We'll have
Yes.
a paid version.
Yes.
Once we establish ourselves as professionals and we get past the duct tape and zip ties on the mics to hold them up on the stands, I mean, you can see this in the video, but.
Then we can name drop.
I mean, we're making it happen, so.
Yes.
We'll get to that point and name drop, but, anything else after that?
What do you want to add, Maegan?
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we thank Maegan for coming on. There's a lot in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff for players, parents, a lot of good stuff that was dropped that people will be able to take and improve their game with, and then kind of compare to, we also get, we get a lot of comments back on like, hey, I never thought about it that way. This is the way I thought about it. I
Right.
don't agree with this. I agree with that. So it's really cool to kind of get the opinions out there and get the talk going, because communication is it.
Yep.
And once you start talking about it, that's when you start learning more and more about accepting others in the game and accepting different playing styles. And like, I didn't know about the injury, the
Yeah.
Some
Some
German,
German.
yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
One last question. When you were playing, any pre-game like rituals that you had?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I didn't think the world revolved around me, surprisingly. But I would, every time I messed up, I would like either yawn to like be like, whatever, that was fine of me, or I would like fix my hair. There was always something I had to do every time I messed up to like re-get my mind
So you had a
ready.
little tick.
Yeah.
A little tick.
I would like
Reset.
spread- yeah, a reset basically. So that was my little thing. But other than that, no, I wasn't. Maybe sometimes with underwear. Sometimes it was like I played really good with these. Maybe I should do
Yes.
it again.
It goes to Michael Jordan with his, they're not sliders in basketball, but his undershorts or whatever.
Yep.
I think he wore the same ones that he wore in North Carolina
Yeah.
all through his professional career.
Wow. See,
Yeah.
you can't do that with underwear.
No, no.
That'd be a little
Right,
different.
yes. And then one last question, nutrition for the teenage players. Does nutrition play a big role?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking to the wrong person, but it does. I wish I would have been more, health conscious, but.
But you were just born a winner, so
Right.
it didn't matter if you ate that.
I could have that Frappuccino before
Yes.
the game.
Yeah,
Right.
I definitely was that kid, like,
Go through Del Taco. Right through
yeah,
Del Taco.
in and out.
Shout out.
Yeah.
It's water with lemons. Lemons from Mateo.
That is not a sponsorship plug by any
Yeah.
means,
No.
but if Del Taco would like to consider us,
Yes.
They'll take it.
I'll take it.
They do have the best fries for a fast food Mexican restaurant. Del Taco fries, those
Just
crinkle cut
restaurant,
fries.
Period, yeah.
I
their
need to
fries.
pay you guys for talking about it too much.
Well, that's why we always talk nutrition, because Brian and I like food.
Yeah.
Do you remember Noggles?
Hmm?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It seems like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's before your time.
We're gonna get, I don't know, we need to start doing pizza or something. We'll start
Oh, yes.
sampling pizzas
Right.
from around the area.
Mhm.
Oh, that'd be genius.
And then-
Like some pizza and coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, those
Right.
are the two things that Ryan and I run on clearly, is coffee and pizza, stadium
Yeah.
pizza.
Or
Uh,
donuts.
We need to do a podcast
From Stadium, yeah. Yeah, we'll hit them up.
Yes.
Yeah, Stadium Pizza in one in
Actually-
Temecula and Lake Elsinore. Both
Yes.
of them, Lake Elsinore is our kind of home, one that we go to. We love them. Great happy hours. But yeah, Stadium Pizza by far is the best pizza I've found down this way.
Definitely is. I agree.
All right, well, thank
Any
you. for coming.
questions? No?
Oh, it's all about the love, you guys. It's all about the love, so.
Peace, love, and happiness.
Yep.
There you go. Just be a good person.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
totally.
It really comes down to that.
If a parent listening to this wants to get in contact with you for their kids to play on one of your teams,
Yes.
do you have a preferred probably email?
Yeah, I do Maegan, Maegan.Gibson, Gibson11@gmail. So I'd email me, and then,
And then your info's probably on the Arsenal FC South website as well.
Yes.
If it's not, it will be.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
on there, I checked.
Okay.
ArsenalFCSouth.com. You can go on there and check out the coaches section for any more info that you would have.
Mhm.
Again,
And you know where to find us, because we're everywhere.
we're on all the social channels,
Yep.
Facebook, Instagram,
I say it all
Twitter,
the time.
Snapchat. There's actually a funny story about me and Megan with Snapchat. We'll save for another time.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
Or
our,
Jessica, as I was called.
Yeah, Jessica. I
Yeah.
don't know. Sorry about that. But hey, now we can have each other.
Yeah, now it makes sense.
So yeah, check us out. Again, thank you, Megan, for coming on and being a guest with us.
Thank you for having
appreciate
me.
it, and we'll hope to have you on
Absolutely.
again. Anything else?
I think that's it. I think our time is up,
Mhm.
and
My stomach's growling, so I'm gonna go get some pizza.
and I gotta go do the kid Uber thing and pick up.
There you go.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in and listening. More content on its way. Thanks again.
See ya.
Peace.